Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of my Laravel Livewire chat application tutorial series. So yes, after 10 days of not uploading, I've decided to do a chat application with Laravel Livewire, and the reason for that is because I feel like Livewire is very powerful. I've used it a lot more recently with my day job, and I want to just use a chat application to showcase just how powerful Livewire can be. So this episode is going to be nice, short and simple. We're just going to get set up with the starter kit, so Laravel Breeze just for authentication. We're going to get Livewire installed, we're going to get our chat template set up, and we're going to get our migrations set up on the database. And then after that, we're going to move into the second episode where we're actually going to start coding these different elements in and yeah, start piecing it together bit by bit. Eventually we can touch on more advanced stuff like events, WebSockets and so on to make it more real time, maybe even chat rooms or group chats and stuff like that. And yeah, hopefully go from there really. And then you guys can take this code away, expand on it how you want, use it in your own application, use it for your learning, anything like that. You guys can then decide what to do with it. And I'll make sure everything's available on GitHub in case you want to cross-reference with what I do, and also any links I do use will also be in the description as well. So I've decided on Bootstrap just for speed purposes in terms of tutorial, and we're going to use something like this in terms of a chat window or chat box and getting that set up as well, and then code in a basic chat system where you can speak to different people. And then eventually what we could end up doing is having group chats. And again, my ideas are something along the lines of Discord potentially, but maybe without the voice element, and just have yeah, a group chat system like that really. So we're going to use Laravel Breeze and we'll get that set up first. And this, normally I do use Jetstream because it offers more functionality and you can customize it a little bit more, but for the purpose of this tutorial series we'll just use Breeze, as I think that's all we'll need, and it is only going to be basic as well. So first thing we need to do is migrate all the migrations that we have in terms of the starter application for Laravel, and that consists of password resets, users, failed jobs and personal access tokens. So let's get that migrated over. So it's going to run our migrations, that's all done, and if you go into your database system, you've got your migrations table and the 4 migrations set up, ready to go. So let's get Laravel Breeze installed. All we need to do is run composer require Laravel Breeze --dev. And to do that, we just do vendor bin sale and then paste that command. And this has to be in the Ubuntu command line. That will then download and install Laravel Breeze, and it should come up on the command line afterwards what we need to run after it's installed, although the Laravel documentation does already tell us we need to run Breeze install, well, artisan Breeze install, then we need to run migrate again, npm install and npm run dev. So all very straightforward enough. So bin sale artisan Breeze install. That's all done. Now we need to run vendor. In fact, I've already done it. Migrate again. Nothing to migrate. Then we'll run our npm install. And I do need to set up a Bash Alias. I probably should do that off screen at some point. I mean, I did say at the end of last episode for you guys to have a go at setting up Bash Alias as well, so I should probably take my own advice and get that set up so I'm not always doing .vendor bin sale and so on to run commands. But yeah, I'll do that in between this episode and the next episode. So npm is going to install all the modules / packages, and hopefully doesn't take too long. Nope, all done. Sometimes my command line kind of freezes as such and I have to maximize it and minimize it again just to refresh it as such. I'm not sure why it does it. So then we want to run bin sail npm run dev. In fact, instead of running dev, build, I think it is, and that should build our assets for us. So we've got the Laravel Breeze authentication set up. So if we refresh our main Laravel application, you should now see login and register in the top right. And these will automatically hook up to the users table that we've migrated over. And if you see in your view folder, you'll have layouts, app, guest and navigation, and a dashboard page, a welcome page, and some components that Laravel Breeze will use as well. So that's all set up for us, and we will be focusing on the dashboard blade, which will extend the app blade. So what we want to do is get Bootstrap installed. So let's get Bootstrap set up. Get Bootstrap. We want to quick start, and all we want to do is copy the CSS, paste that there, and the JS, and paste that at the bottom of the body. So then that should be Bootstrap set up nicely. We don't need that anymore. So we've got our dashboard blade. So let's get Livewire set up as well. So all we need to run is composer require livewire livewire. So we'll do this in our Ubuntu command line again. And whilst that's doing that, Livewire offers various functionality. So you can have events, actions, so you can do click events on buttons or A tags or anything really. You can emit events from the JavaScript, and you can emit events from the actual component itself. And you've also got event listeners, which again we'll be touching on later in the series for WebSockets and real-time integration, and that'll be using something like Pusher to offer that. And then we've also got file uploads, which again we're going to be touching on this when we go into kind of the ability to upload an image or a file to your message, similar to what you can do on Discord, Messenger, WhatsApp, or all those sorts of applications. So that should all be set up. We've got Livewire installed, and we just need to include the Livewire assets. So to do that, we do at Livewire styles and at Livewire scripts. So we'll do that in our app blade. Livewire styles, we will paste that under right, and our scripts, Livewire scripts. So Livewire should now be set up, which is brilliant. We need to publish the config file. We don't have to publish the config file, but it would be nice to just to give us that flexibility if we ever were to want to configure Livewire. So let's get that done. And if we wanted to publish the front-end assets, we could do that as well, but we will leave that for now. And we can change the asset base URL and stuff like that, but we don't really need to at this stage in time really. So next step, what we want to do is register for our application. So Matthew James, register, and we're on the dashboard page, and all this template is already set up by Laravel. I believe it's Laravel Breeze that sets this up, and Jetstream's a little bit different from memory. It's been a while since I've set up a fresh project completely, but yeah. So we're logged into the dashboard, so let's get the chat template set up now, ready to start plugging in. So what we want to do is show the code for the chat template, and I'll post this link to mdbootstrap.com in the description as well, in case you want to change the template, or you may have your own template that you want to plug in as well. So let's just copy all that for now. Let's put that into our dashboard blade. We want to put it within here, I would say. And let's have a look at how that looks. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted. So we've got a basic chat system set up. I mean, on the actual example, they haven't got underscores and so on. And I believe that may be not our welcome blade. That's the wrong one. That'll be our app. I'm guessing it's Livewire. One of those two that are conflicting with the Bootstrap styling. But again, later in the episodes we can do that, or I'll off camera just clean that up. But for now it's not the biggest issue. So down the left hand side we've got the different chats that are going to be happening, and then we've got the actual chat. So when you click a chat, what we want to happen is that relevant chat to then show in this chat block here. Then we've got the message and then the send button, and I think eventually we're going to have a file upload as well to send a file or an image in the chat as well. And then for that we'll use a different plugin, but I don't want to jump ahead too soon. So now we've got everything kind of ready to start coding. What we want to then do is set up a migration for chats. So for that, what we're going to do is vendor bin sale artisan make migration create chats table. That's going to create a migration for our chats table. So if you navigate to your database migrations folder, you've got create chats table migration, and by default Laravel, when you create a migration through the command line, it will set up a table ID and timestamps for us, which is perfect. So what we want to then do is link a chat to a user, well, users. So for that we're going to need a pivot table as well, and we will just leave table ID and timestamps for now. We want to set up another migration, so create chat user table, and this is going to be our pivot table. So we're going to have a chats table to house our chats, and within that we're going to have a chat messages table to link to the chats, and chats will then link to users. For now it's going to be a one user, well, two users linking to one chat, but because we're doing a pivot table, eventually we could have 4, 5, 6 users link into one chat as well. So we've got our chat user table, and what we're going to do is table foreign ID, chat ID, table foreign ID, user ID, and basic table, chat ID, user ID, and it's going to be like a middleman as such in our table structure. So we've got our users table, we've got our chats table, and this table is going to link them together. And then what we want to then do is have one more migration, I think. Let's go for chat messages, and this is going to have foreign ID, chat ID, table text, message, table foreign, oh, if I can spell, user ID, table text, message. Yeah, I think for now that will do perfect. So the way I see it working, a chats table, a users table. The chats table is just going to be a really top level chats table, and we're going to have other tables linking to this main chat table. Then we've got a chat user table linking a chat and a user together. And again, this could have multiple records, so chat ID 1, user ID 1, chat ID 1, user ID 2, chat ID 1, user ID 3. Then we've got our chat messages table, which is going to house the messages specifically. And again, that will link to a chat table through chat ID and a user through user ID and the users table, and then a message. And the reason we've got these two is because a chat message will always link to a chat, and a message is always going to link to a user, whoever wrote that message, and then the message to house the message itself. And then we will have probably a media table, I think it will be, and that will link to chat messages, so you'll have attachments as such on each message as well. So now we've got that set up, we want to migrate. And we've got our 3 new tables set up. So if we refresh our database, chats, chat messages, and chat user. Perfect. So let's go and close these off. Let's go to our dashboard and let's go to the template. So for now, because we have got this set up, we're going to start coding in different bits. So let's set up a different user initially, and that will just be to imitate users down the left hand side who we want to chat with. Eventually I think we'll add a button in new chat and you can select the user to chat, but let's skip ahead a little bit with that and skip that for now. So we've got users. Let's duplicate the row. Let's call this test chat person, test chat at test.com, and we'll do the same password. So we've got a second person set up. Now what we want to do is code this element in place. So for that, what I want to do is set all of this up as a Livewire component. And before I go ahead and do that, what I do want to do is just delete some of these user elements. And the reason for that is because it will just shorten the HTML a little bit, just so it's a little bit easier from my perspective to read as well. So if we refresh, we've got one user and we've got the chats there. So let's set up a Livewire component. Chat. So to make a Livewire component, you do PHP artisan make Livewire and then the component name. However, in this case, because we're using Laravel Sail, it's vendor bin Sail, or Sail if you've set up an alias. Make Livewire chatbox. Create that. Would you like? No, not at the minute. And what that will do is set up a class, which will be our PHP component code, and a view, which will be the view for the component. So if we go into Livewire folder in the resources views folder, we've got the chatbox component HTML. Then if we go into our app folder, and it's not view, HTTP Livewire chatbox, we've got the chatbox component as well. So let's include this on our dashboard page. So at Livewire chatbox, and that should, and no semicolon, remember that, nothing happened, which is perfect. So if we take all this section code and plop it in our chatbox component and refresh, we should still see the same if it's all worked and linked up. Perfect, we have. So what we want to do is set up a mount function. And this mount function will get run when the component gets initialized. It will only run once, and then after that it won't run again until you obviously refresh the page or go to a different page and come back. And what we also want to do is set up a public users variable. So what this users variable is going to house, it's all our users in our users table. So what we'll do is this users equals user all. So when the component gets initialized, we're going to set the users variable to all the users within the users table. And if you're not used to Laravel or the MVC architecture, this is a model, and a model will get the data from the database. What we could do, if our users table, for example, was named something completely random and different, we could add on protected table was users random. Let's just say it was users random. This would tell the model to look at the users random table, but by default it will look at the users table. So if we, on this list here where the users are, if we looped all our users, we should have 2 users in the left hand side. And let's get rid of some of these extra lines because they don't look too great. So, and what we want to do as we loop each user, we want to print their name, and for their name it's just their name column. So user name, and the message we'll leave blank for now. Leave that. In fact, instead of deleting that, what I'm going to do is actually comment it out, because we still want to code this in place, because eventually we're not going to have all our users down the left hand side. Eventually we do want it to just be chats that you have got as a user, but for now, just for starting out purposes, I want it to be all users. So as you can see, we've got the member, we've got, this was where all our chats was, as you can see here. Because we're looping the users and we're defining each user in our users table as a user and then printing their name, we've got the 2 users in our database. Now obviously I'm logged in as Matthew James and we've got Matthew James on the left hand side. That's not what we want. We don't want to be able to see our own person. So let's change that quickly. So we want to do user where ID is not auth user ID get. Now if we refresh, my user's gone. So what we've done, instead of getting all the users from the users database table, we're restricting it to where the ID is not equal to our authenticated user's ID and then getting them all. So it's going to look at the authenticated user. In this case, I'm logged in as Matthew James, so my user ID will be 1, and it's going to avoid pulling that record when it gets all the users. And that is how we end up with just that test chat person user. Obviously for now we want this to be blank, but we want a chat linked to this test chat person. So for now, let's hard code that, or hard set it up as such. So let's create a chat record and let's create chat users. And we're going to insert a row and we're going to create 2 records in here. Now what we then want to set up is a many-to-many relationship. So we'll go to the Laravel documentation. We'll go relationship, which should eloquent ORM relationships, and we want one-to-many. No, it would be many-to-many. So it belongs to many roles, and then the inverse will be further down here. So let's get that relationship set up on our user model. So it will belong to many chats, and what we need to do is make a model for our chat table. So to do that, we do make model chat. So it's created a chat model for us, and then in our belongs to many we want chat class, the table we're going to be using, which will be chat user, foreign pivot key, user ID, chat ID, that should work. So it's user ID, role user. Yeah, that should work. But the way we can test this is, as we're looping each user, we can dd user chats. I think I named it chats. Yeah, quite forgetful. So we've got a chat record linked to our user. So this, what we've set up, so let me just go through what we've set up. We've got all the users that isn't equal to our authenticated user's ID. We've set up a chat model, and by default it will link to the chats table unless we've stated otherwise. So let's just do that for demonstration purposes. So we've overrode the table that this model should look at, although in this case we're not actually overriding it, we're just telling it what table to look at anyway, and this will still work. So we've set up the chat model, we've set up the user model, and we've set up a chats relationship on our user model. That's going to link to the chat class, aka chat model. It's going to use the chat_user pivot table. It's going to use the user ID column for the user model. So it's going to link the user ID column on chat user to the ID of this model, which in this case is the users table. And then it's going to link the chat ID to the chat model, or the model that we want to join to our users table in this case. So then when we go to our Livewire component, we dd out the user chats relationship, and that will give us one chat. And then what we can do is do the inverse. So if we set up a relationship on our chat model, users, user, we've got chat ID, user ID. So then if we loop our users chats, dd chat, so this will give us the chat that we're linked to, well, the first chat, so in this case ID 1, because we're looping through each chat. And then if we dd out chat users, we should see 2 users, and these are both, well, all the users that are linked to this particular chat. And obviously in this case we've got ourselves, and the second one is the test chat person. So now from a really top level, we're starting to put it together and build a chat system. The way I then see this next bit working is you click on a user on this left hand side, and then the Livewire component will open that chat with that user or that particular chat. Or better yet, we should probably loop all the chats that our users link to as opposed to the people that it's linked that's on the database. Can't get my words out, but I'm kind of doing this on the fly as such, and it's the first time I would say I've built a proper chat system, especially without proper planning, and I'd like to build it on the go so you can see how a developer thinks real time. And yeah, we tend to chop and change our mind a lot. At least that's just me anyway. So let's change this variable. We don't want users anymore, so let's get rid of that, and let's do public chats that an authenticated user is linked to. So we don't really want to get all the users anymore. We want to get this chat equals auth user chats. So then what we can do here is chats as chat, and if we just temporarily comment this out, because that will cause an error, we've got still one chat there, but it's not got any content. The reason for that is because it would currently error as there is no name, or there's no user variable for us to access, and there's no name property for us to access in this instance. So what we then want to do is, I would say, add a title maybe, or a name for the chat. Or if there's only one user linked to a chat other than yourself, maybe we just show the username for that person that's in the chat. So the way we could do that is for each chat users, and let's see if this will work. Filtered relationship, public function users. No, let's not do that. For each chat users, where ID not equal to auth user ID, get as user pd user, and for each. Now this might error. It did. Integrity. It's ambiguous. Select users.all with users. Will that work? Perfect. So then what we could do is we've got username. Perfect. Right, so what we're doing here, we're looking at the chat that we're looping through. So we're looping through every chat that our user is linked to. We're then looking at the users that belongs to that chat. So in this case, if we just did chat users, this would be equal to 2. The reason we've done these brackets is because we're doing a query, or we want to chain a query onto it. We don't just want to get chat users, we want to filter it as such. So we want to filter it where the user's ID is not equal to the authenticated user's ID and get, and then loop each one as a user and print their name. The problem with this is that if there were 3 users linked to a chat, one being the authenticated user and then two other users, this would print two users. And just to prove that, if we went into our users table, duplicate this test chat person, so duplicate row without keys, and we'll call it test chat person 2. And then if we go to our chat user and duplicate this row and link that to user ID 3, we've got test chat person and test chat person 2. So in the next episode, what we're going to do is create a shorthand function for our chats model to get to see if there is only one other user in the chat, and if so, display the user's username. Otherwise, what we're going to do is a group chat as such. So we're going to add a title or a name to our chats table for the group chat instances, and then the group chat name will show there instead of the person's name. And what we can do is set that migration up in preparation. So if we do vendor bin sale, add name to chats table, it would help if I spelt the command out right. It will create the migration. So if we go to our database and migrations table, add name to chats table. It's already picked up that we want to add something to the chats table, and we want to do table string name. And we want to make this column nullable, because we don't always want this column populated unless it turns into a group chat. And if it's a group chat, then we want a name for the group chat. That's how I think it will work. Let's migrate that. And what we should see, we should have seen, there we go, a name column onto our chats table, and that's going to be in preparation for group chats. Although for now I do want one-to-one chats, but it looks like I've set it up in a way where group chats are going to be possible anyway, so we may as well just think ahead to that and have that functionality and flexibility in place in preparation. So that brings the end to episode 1. So next episode, what we're going to do, as mentioned, is change this to a function where we know if it's a one-to-one chat or a group chat. And then what I want to do is change this area to only show the chat that you've selected. And initially, this should be blank. None of this should be shown because you shouldn't technically have clicked on a chat once you first load the page. And then when you click a chat, it will load. And then we'll need a way to make it active. And then we'll also need a way to identify when a message has been read by yourself. Because if you're in a group chat, the other person or other people in the group chat could have read the message, but you wouldn't have. So this will still need to show the amount of notifications for you as an authenticated user. However, that will be in a later stage. I think for now, let's keep it simple. And in the next episode, as mentioned, let's start getting this side of the application plugged in. And then after that, we can create some other chats and some other dummy people, and we can start bringing it all together and seeing how far we get with it. So thank you for watching. I will put this code on GitHub at the end of the tutorial series, because I believe from now until the end of the tutorial there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing. I am not planning this tutorial series ahead of time. I do like to code a lot of things on the fly as such, and I like to think of things on the go. I mean, sometimes with my day job, obviously I do have to and like to plan things thoroughly so we know what we're going to be doing. But a lot of the time with stuff like this, I like to, yeah, quick think as such and work things out on the go. And I don't want to do a lot of cutting and chopping and whatnot with the video, because I want you guys to see a real kind of first-hand view as a developer building something like this, rather than a refined video as such, just showing you the best bits and how to do something. I want you to kind of go through the thought process with me, and I can imagine along the way you may get to a point where you think, Matt, that's probably not the best way to do something, and if so, comment it in the comment box and just let me know. I'm always open to suggestions, and I'm always open to giving some feedback back as well if I don't feel your suggestion is the right way to go. Again, like I say, a lot of this is on the fly, so hopefully you guys can take something away from this. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment if you want to, and please like the video, and yeah, look out for the next episode.